The woman in row 26 was asleep when the captain made his first mistake. Her name was Sarah Martinez. She was 52 years old. A retired airline captain with 30 years of flying experience. She was not supposed to be working. She was on this flight as a deadhead passenger. A pilot traveling without duty. Her grandson was turning 5 in Dubai. And she did not want to miss his birthday. So she booked flight 447. A Boeing 737 flying from Mumbai to Dubai. With 150 people aboard. She found a seat in row 26 near the window. And fell asleep before takeoff. Captain John Walsh was in the cockpit. He had been flying for 17 years. He was competent but not exceptional. He had trained in simulators for emergencies. But he had never experienced a real emergency in flight. His co-pilot was Marcus Webb. Young and very new to the airline. At 31,000 feet. Captain Walsh decided to walk through the cabin. This was not unusual. Captains sometimes left the cockpit to check on passengers during the flight. They would walk through the cabin. See how the crew was doing. Maybe talk to passengers. Captain Walsh left the cockpit to stretch his legs and check on the cabin service. He left at exactly the wrong moment. At that same moment, the electrical system in the cockpit began to fail. The cause was unknown. Later, investigators would find that a wire had been damaged during maintenance. The electrical failure triggered the automatic cockpit door lock. The door sealed instantly. Captain Walsh was suddenly locked outside the cockpit. He could not get back in. He pulled the handle. The door did not open. He input the emergency code. Nothing happened. The electronics that controlled the lock had lost power. Captain Walsh was locked outside the cockpit, while the electrical system was failing inside it. Seconds later, alarms started going off. In the cockpit, Marcus Webb was alone. He was young. He was frightened. He was trying to read the instruments. But the instruments were going dark. As the electrical system continued to fail, Captain Walsh heard the alarms through the cockpit door. He immediately went to the telephone at the front of the cabin. This telephone connects directly to the cockpit. He picked it up. Marcus answered immediately. "Marcus, what is happening?" Captain Walsh asked. "Captain, the electrical system is failing. I am losing instruments. I do not know what to do." Captain Walsh was now locked outside the cockpit. He could not see the instruments. He could not see what Marcus was seeing. He could only hear Marcus's voice and give him instructions based on his memory of the procedures. "Marcus, listen to me. When the electrical system fails, the first priority is to restore power. The backup power generator should start automatically. Do you see the backup generator indicator?" Marcus looked. The panel was going dark very quickly now. "Captain, I see it. The generator did not start. Then you must start it manually. Look for the manual start button. It should be on the panel to your right." Marcus found it. He pressed it. Nothing happened. "It did not work, Captain." Now Captain Walsh had a critical decision to make. He was locked outside the cockpit. The electrical system was failing. The backup generator was not starting. The airplane was losing power. He had two options. Option 1. Reset the main electrical system. This was the normal procedure. Marcus would follow a checklist. To reset the main system. If the reset worked, the airplane would have power again. But if the reset did not work, they would lose all power. And the airplane would go into a complete electrical blackout. In a blackout, the airplane would be uncontrollable. Option 2. Dump fuel. And prepare for an emergency landing immediately. This meant reducing weight, so the airplane could land safely, even with failing hydraulics. This was the more conservative choice. It meant admitting the situation was too dangerous to try a reset. Captain Walsh had to choose. Sarah Martinez woke up. At this exact moment. She woke because she felt the airplane shudder. She heard the alarms through the walls of the fuselage. She had heard these alarms many times. In her 30 years of flying, her body knew what they meant. Even though her mind was still waking up, she immediately unfastened her seatbelt and stood up. A flight attendant named Priya was walking through the cabin. Her face was pale. "What is happening?" Sarah asked. "I do not know," Priya said. "The captain is locked outside the cockpit. The co-pilot is alone. The captain is giving him instructions through the telephone. I do not know what is wrong." Sarah's mind was now completely awake. She was no longer a passenger. She was a pilot again. She listened. Through the cabin walls, she could hear Captain Walsh's voice. On the PA system, she could hear him telling Marcus what to do. "Marcus, you are going to reset the main electrical system. Follow the procedure. Locate the main power switch." Sarah knew this procedure. She had done this procedure in the simulator 100 times. She also knew something else. She knew that if you reset the main electrical system, while it is actively failing, you will not restore power. You will cause a surge that will destroy the backup systems. And if you destroy the backup systems, you cannot recover. Sarah ran to the cockpit door. She pounded on it. "Captain! Captain! Do not do the reset." Captain Walsh did not hear her. He was focused on giving instructions to Marcus. "Marcus, you see the reset switch. Turn it to the reset position." Sarah pounded harder. "Captain! The backup generator. Check the backup generator." Nobody heard her. "Activate the reset now, Marcus." Sarah stopped pounding. She realized she could not change his mind through a locked door. She thought very quickly. The backup generator was not starting because the electrical starter was failing. But the backup generator had a manual crank. You could start it by hand. This was an old procedure from old airplanes. But the Boeing 737 still had the manual crank as a backup option. The manual crank was in the avionics compartment below the cockpit. Sarah ran to that compartment. She found it. She found the manual crank. She began turning it with all her strength. The backup generator started. At that exact moment, Captain Walsh told Marcus to activate the reset switch. The reset switch sent an electrical surge through the main system. But because the backup generator was now running, the surge did not destroy it. Instead, the surge was diverted through the backup system safely. The main power came back online. The airplane had electrical power again. Captain Walsh realized what had happened. He realized someone had started the backup generator manually from below the cockpit. He ran to the avionics compartment. Sarah was standing there, breathing very hard from turning the crank. "Who are you?" he asked. "My name is Sarah Martinez. I am a retired airline captain. I was asleep in row 26. Captain Walsh looked at her. He realized that she had just saved the airplane. He also realized something else. He realized that he had almost made a catastrophic mistake. If Sarah had not started the backup generator, his reset would have destroyed the backup systems. The airplane would have lost all electrical power. The airplane would have become uncontrollable. The airplane would have crashed into the ocean. All 150 people would have died. "I chose wrong," Captain Walsh said. "Yes," Sarah said. "You chose wrong." The airplane landed safely. 45 minutes later, all 150 people walked off alive. They were trembling. Some were crying. All of them knew they had come very close to death. As they walked through the terminal in Dubai, they were not thinking about luggage, or connections or taxis. They were thinking about the moment they felt the alarm stop. They were thinking about the moment the lights came back on in the cabin. They were thinking about the word alive. 3 weeks later, there was an investigation. The investigation found that Captain Walsh's procedure was incorrect. The investigation found that resetting the main electrical system, while it was actively failing, would have destroyed the backup systems. The investigation found that the correct procedure was to start the backup generator manually first, then attempt the reset. The investigation found that Captain Walsh chose wrong. The investigators interviewed Marcus Webb. They asked him if he knew that Captain Walsh's procedure was dangerous. Marcus said he did not know. He was too new to the airline. He trusted the captain. He did what the captain told him to do. The investigators interviewed Sarah Martinez. They asked her how she knew the correct procedure. Sarah said she had done this procedure in simulators 100 times. She said that when you are locked outside the cockpit, you cannot see what is actually happening. You can only guess based on what you remember from training. And when you are guessing, you can very easily choose wrong. But because Sarah had started the backup generator, nobody died. Captain Walsh lost his license. He was never allowed to fly again. The airline said he had made a dangerous decision while locked outside the cockpit. They said. He did not have proper judgment for emergencies. Captain Walsh was devastated. He spent months thinking about what would have happened if Sarah had not woken up. He thought about the 150 families that would have been destroyed. He thought about the children who would have grown up without parents. He thought about the grandchildren who would never be born. He realized that one wrong choice made by a person locked outside and unable to see the full situation could have destroyed 150 lives. Sarah Martinez was offered a job by the airline. They asked her to come back as a captain. They said they wanted her expertise. They said the airline needed pilots who understood emergency procedures at that level. But Sarah said no. She said she had retired for a reason. She said she was going to Dubai to watch her grandson's 5th birthday party. She did not need to fly anymore. But 150 people were alive because she had been asleep in row 26. Because she had woken up at the right moment. Because she had understood what Captain Walsh could not see. When you are locked outside, you cannot see everything that matters. You cannot see the instruments. You cannot see the actual situation. You can only guess. And when you are guessing about the lives of 150 people, you can choose wrong very easily. Captain Walsh chose wrong. But Sarah Martinez chose right. Her grandson's 5th birthday party was the happiest day of her life. She held him while he blew out his candles. She watched him laugh while he played with his cousins. She watched him grow and dance and become more alive with every passing moment. And she knew that he would never know how close he came to never being born. He would never know that 150 people almost died. He would never know that his grandmother had started a backup generator by hand in an avionics compartment under a dying airplane. He would only know that his grandmother loved him enough to be alive to see him turn 5. And that was the difference between life and death for everyone on Flight 447.